All right. Well, hi there. I'm Joe Wainz from TurtleWorks. We help companies leverage their existing Microsoft technology, and I'm here with Dmitry Dukhan, and we're going to have a conversation about productivity solutions, productivity improvements, and our goal is to provide you with some action items that you can walk away with and try on your own. Of course, if you bump your head, you can reach out to us and ask for help, but that's really our intent, is to equip you with some things that you can try. So Dmitry Dukhan is Senior Director of Digital Manufacturing for Hulft. Hulft is an enterprise data management solutions company, and as Dimitri says, they're data plumbers. So let's just dive right in. Dimitri, some thoughts that come to mind for me when talking with C-levels regarding productivity in a manufacturing space that revolve around downtime or customer vendor communication or having the supportive information needed when making decisions. And in order to make those decisions, we'll go with the last bullet there first. To make decisions, C-levels need to have useful information or be able to visualize their business. Do you ask C-levels, like, how do you visualize your business, or what sources of data do you trust when you're trying to see how your business is functioning? And if you ask those questions successfully, what kind of responses do you get? If you don't ask those questions, what questions do you ask?
Joe, thanks. Thanks for formulating the conversation in this direction. So, absolutely, we ask all of our CEOs, how do you visualize your business? And what we find is the majority of CEOs run through a myriad of reports out of ERPs, reports out of warehouse management systems, CRM, customer relationship management systems, PLM, product lifecycle management, manufacturing execution systems. There's a litany of reports, and the CEO will be bombarded by each without having a way of viewing his business on an overall dashboard as one screen. He sees reports that now he's got to try to figure out whether this column lines up with this other column, this row with this other row. He's got to be his own data analyst, and most executives do not have time to do that. So they
And they're
count on
probably
people
not
to
real
tell them
good
something.
at it either, because they're not details people.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. And so we will take data out of those systems. We'll put that data into a single repository chosen by either the executive or the executive's people, and then provide that data to something that truly visualizes the data based on that individual's KPIs.
Perfect. So, and typically organizations have some repository already sitting around that they just haven't considered. So you can take advantage of SQL Server or Oracle or some other tool that's available. There are some MySQL, some open source databases as well that you can take advantage of. So depending on the organization, they may have SQL Server Enterprise or some, um, large version, licensed version of Oracle you can take advantage of to build that repository. But it doesn't have to be expensive to do that. And summarizing that data, then we can talk about tools like Power BI or Tableau, or those tools that make it sort of easy and fun to build the dashboards and to visualize. When I think about KPIs, when I think about numbers, I think that there's sort of the people out there that don't think about KPIs and numbers, and they're trying to run a business. And then I think there are people who do think about KPIs and metrics for running their business, but they don't do it well. And then there's the people who get it right. Any thoughts, any ideas, any things that you could get people's juices flowing on, what are my numbers? What are the numbers I should care about? What am I not thinking about that I could see in a dashboard, a pie chart, bar chart, whatever? Anything come to mind?
So most companies that we speak to, especially as they start to get larger, will have a suite of analysts who are excellent at quantifying your productivity of sale, your cost of sale. They're excellent at quantifying your overhead and your overhead's return on investment. Every single one of those individuals will talk to you about IoT. IoT is the shiny buzzword du jour that nobody seems to understand what to do with or how to pull those numbers. And
But
so
it's really cool,
it
Dmitry.
is
For those
absolutely
who don't
cool.
know, IoT is the Internet of Things, and it's basically any device that connects to the internet. And I'll let Dmitry keep going.
It's what most of us immediately picture as the Star Trek or Star Wars world of the future, where we are all connected to devices. Well, so today, as I said, you've got the ability to see how much you're spending on raw materials, and you've got the ability to see what your sales look like, and you kind of extrapolate through this big black box in the middle. We open up that big black box. We can help you link to manufacturing floors. We can help you get into that manufacturing execution system. We can help you see the data coming out of your PLCs. We can help you understand exactly what each point in the manufacturing process is costing you. We can also then help you understand exactly what happens to your product when it comes out the other end of the manufacturing process. Does it spend 9 months on a shelf while your e-commerce strategy for that product takes hold? Does it immediately move into a 3PL, third party logistics warehouse run by somebody else? And does it spend a year there collecting dust, or as we say, maturing before it's perfectly ready to sell, like a fine wine or something,
Hmm.
when you have an idea of having it sold in 6 weeks. So we can pull all the data that is truly your business, and we can show it to you, whether that data is in a robot, whether that data is in a cloud, whether that data is in a back office logistics or manufacturing system, or even a historical system tracking downtime or tracking errors or anything of that nature.
Hmm. So you've mentioned a whole lot of things. One of the things that I see Hulft or Dimitri's able to do really well is reach into those controllers and PLCs and pull out that data to help you understand what's going on, cycle times and whatever it is that you need to do, as well as connecting to all the different systems and pulling data where you need to pull it from. Um, One of the things that I encounter is I'll walk into a business and I'll say, hey, where are you spending time manually creating reports? And how much time are you spending? So I've literally had people tell me they spend 8 hours a week creating 5 reports. And that's not all the reports they do. And it's export out of ERP, fiddle with it in Excel, get it into bar charts and pie charts and whatever, and then copy it over into PowerPoint and then do presentations or email stuff out from a sales perspective or whatever. Had a conversation recently with one of my clients. They're spending 3 hours a day putting together order count reports. So we're going to get into clearing that out and using Power BI to automatically create those order count reports. What are you experiencing when you're having those conversations? I'm guessing similar things, but I'd love to hear your insights and your experiences related to people doing that manual job of putting reports together when they don't have to.
So, to start with, we have a saying: friends don't let friends do manual data entry.
There it is. That's why I like Dimitri.
We completely tell people, stop, don't do that. It's the worst thing to do. And I'll tell you this horror story real quick. We have a customer who, when we met, was taking EDI raw data provided to them in CSV, so a raw flat file,
Hmm.
and they were manually re-entering it or adjusting it and putting that data into an Excel spreadsheet so that they then could use it to really tell them what they had sold and what they needed to
So,
produce.
so it's MDI then, manual data
Manual data interface.
interface.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. It was horrible. When I saw it, I grabbed my head and said, "Stop, stop. This is horrible." So again, to that point, one of the things that we like to do is whether it's EDI, whether it's e-commerce, whether it's OCR, I don't care. We have over 300,000 connectors. We pull data from anything, and we'll put that data. If your least scary item is a spreadsheet, fine. We'll put that data into your spreadsheet automatically every hour or every day or every half hour, whatever your increment is, so that the manual data entry goes away, and with it, the mistakes, and with it, the forgetfulness or the misalignment of rows or columns, all the stuff that happens when your spreadsheet gets too big.
Hmm.
So we get rid of all of that, and we make your spreadsheet, if nothing else, operate as a small dashboard. But hopefully, as we're doing that for you, and now we've got the database, or sorry, the spreadsheet automated, we can then start to keep this spreadsheet and the next one in half hour and the next one in 45 minutes or an hour, whatever your cadence is. And we can start to provide that up to something that's connected to Power BI. So you're not staring at a spreadsheet, which everyone I'm sure knows after several hours of staring, it all seems to blend or blur together.
Hmm.
Instead, you're looking at a true dashboard with
Right.
moving graphical representations that really gives you an understanding of your business. And then you can drill down for very specific points in time or for very specific understandings of what happened based on external forces.
Mhm. So, folks, a spreadsheet is not a database. All right. We
Correct.
use it that way. I'm sorry, people use it that way, but it's not meant for that. In our case, I walk into businesses and I'm one of the first questions I ask is, tell me three spreadsheets you're running your business off of. And we'll look at those. Most likely, I'm moving those into SharePoint, and then I'm probably building some automation on top of that so that you can get notifications or we can interact with other systems to take care of some busy work that you've been doing manually. Um,
Absolutely.
and then from there we can put Power BI on top of SharePoint. You know, at some point SharePoint's not really a database either, and then we've got to move into something like SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, um, and that doesn't have to be an expensive experience. Chances are you have already got a database sitting on site that you could leverage. It's just, you know, create another. I'm sorry, you have a DBMS, a database management system, and you just need to create another database and put whatever data is in there. Um,
Absolutely.
so you know, in my mind, what are the three spreadsheets you're using to run your business? Step back and look at those and realize that there are much better tools. If you're on Microsoft 365, chances are you can just put those into SharePoint, and then you can put Power BI on top of it. If you know, you're populating spreadsheets from some source, doing a lot of busy data entry work. I've got a client right now, they're putting 4,000 entries in a spreadsheet every week,
Oh,
manually entering those. And we're working to replace that. But if you've got some systems that are churning out data and you're taking that and chuck it into Excel, stop. Look at a way to automate it. Call Dmitry, see if there's a way that he can automate it. I'm sure there is, but yeah, I mean, that's something to look at. That's certainly something to look at right away. And the manual report building. If you're spending time every week or every month, that's the question to ask yourself. You know, what reports am I doing that for? And oh, by the way, we've got Microsoft 365, therefore we've got Power BI, and there's hobbyists out there that might be able to figure it out and have at it. There's plenty of resources on the internet, and if you can't figure it out, call us and we can certainly help you out as well. Um, and I think that ties into the next question around automation and what it is that you need to what do you want to look at for automating? And for me, those are the questions that I ask. Are there any other questions that you ask folks when you walk into their business to help them figure out where they should spend their time automating? Because everything isn't worth automating. There's an
Correct.
ROI, right? There's an equation to look at
Correct.
related to whether there's a payoff for automating this or not. Some things are really cool to automate, but you
Hmm.
don't get anything out of it. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, what are the questions you ask? How do you help people identify what to automate?
So the first thing I try to get after is, what do you measure today? However you measure it, what is it you measure? Because if you measure it today, you truly care about it. And then we start to figure out or dive into, how do you measure it? To your point, most of the time, it's generally manually, starting from already an automation system that just doesn't go the rest of the way there. And so we will automate all of those half built bridges into one repository so that you can start from that.
So
Most of the time,
if they've got 10 things they look at, based on what you just said, they look at it, they got 10 things they want to look at. How do they determine what number one is?
number one, I would presume, would be that which is closest to your customer.
Oh, good answer.
So, for most of our manufacturers, at the end of the day, they will ship their product to someone that then is responsible for the last mile, whether that's a last mile sale or a delivery or something of that nature, or they will put their product somewhere where customers come to their product and deal with that. And a lot of time, that's your point of sale systems, that's your third party logistics system, that's your quality control system output, or warehouse manager, or transportation management. And so those things you generally measure against your cost of sale. And so most of the time, how you measure it is purely based on whatever contract you signed. You say, is this contract uh, cheaper than it was yesterday? You don't almost ever say, well, but based on this contract, if the person or that entity breaks or loses 30% of all my inventory, is that good? Is that bad? Is there 30% left? And so what we find is, visualizing that last mile then opens the door for not just money savings, but more customer delight, which then opens the door to the rest of the automation to put the product where you needed it.
Okay, nice. So fix that problem. That opens up some cash, opens up some hours to deal with the next problem. Nice. Okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. And this is about getting employees involved in the manufacturing process. So, do you ever have the conversation with C levels about getting those people on the floor involved in understanding what's going on, involved in the manufacturing process, so that they can understand how they can have value and impact on the bottom line, as well as communicate good information, useful, actionable information to the right people, and vice versa. So, yeah, what are your thoughts about that? How does that conversation go if it occurs?
So almost every single one of our C-suite executives is worried about employee retention, or as I call them, they're worried about machine whisperers. People who seem to be able to walk up to a machine and at a glance, with just the sparkle in their eye, fix whatever was wrong with that machine that nobody can identify or
That's my
understand.
son. My son can hear
Exactly,
my son can hear
exactly,
crap on a car that, like, what?
exactly. We call them machine whisperers.
Okay.
And so the issue is, and most it becomes very readily apparent, the automation has been put in place for the process. It hasn't been put in place for the person that deals with the process. That person is generally still running around with a piece of paper and a clipboard, along with all of their PPE and their other protective devices. They're expected to jot down notes at a feverish pace while walking the manufacturing floor every half hour. They then put those papers on the desk of the administrator for that department, who will get to typing all that data in when he or she has the time. So by the time the person responsible for the process or whatever executive sees the data, it's easily days, if not weeks, if not months old. And hopefully the person doing the data entry could read between the coffee stains.
Hmm.
And so what you have is you have this lethargy of the person who's building the product never can speak to the person in, as we say, the shop floor never speaks to the top floor. That's a serious issue. And so one of the things we try to do is we try to insert the person back into the process. We have no problems working with the person with a hardened PDA, hardened cell phone, whatever digital device. So instead of doing their work on a piece of paper and jotting down their notes or dictating what they whispered to the machine, they can do it through the device. So all of that's captured so we can figure out whether they're having to whisper to the machine or the machine is breaking so often because something else is not being done, or maybe something could be done proactively. What we find then the person is not only incented to interact, but they see themselves as an integral part of the process, the company, and the product. It it raises morale. It makes for better employees. It makes for tremendous cost savings, and it makes for an overall better experience in the operation of the company, so everybody can have just that bit of a moment to breathe to make sure they can get to the next stage.
They're part of a team now. They're not somebody being used to get something done. They're not
Correct.
that
They're
other
not a robot
cast.
caretaker.
That other
Correct.
cast of people. They're now part of the team.
Correct.
I've been doing some reading in the Great Game of Business. It's a great book, and all of the work that has successfully been done in many companies by looking at some of the guidelines and experiences discussed in that book, where you're making people all the way down on the shop floor able to have an impact on the bottom line and benefit from the bottom line. They've got a lot of great ideas. They really do.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I do, and I've had pushback, is if I go in to do a discovery, I want to talk to everybody involved in a process that we're trying to deal with. And that means frontline workers. And I have literally had one person in particular, you don't need to talk to anybody but me. And my response was, that's fine, but this project will fail.
Correct.
So, yeah, those people have a lot of experience and understanding. And if you're building some solution, right? If you want to put something out on a PDA or a cell phone and use it for data entry, um, include those people in the process when you're
Absolutely.
designing and figuring out what it is that it needs to look like. Because by doing that, you're including them as part of the team. They have input into the design, it's now some ownership has occurred there, and
Right.
they want to see it succeed. They want to see it adopted within the organization because it's part of them. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Plus, to your point earlier, you mentioned your son can hear the noises on a car. Well, the same way, that individual can hear what's going on with machines on the shop floor. With a piece of paper, they can't record that noise.
mhm,
If they've got a rich media context device, like a PDA, any PDA, even the cheapest ones, can record audio, they can record video, they can make the overall observation for the next person, the junior on the floor, can make that something part of a learning chain.
mhm,
So now that knowledge isn't just seen as a whisper, it's understood, it's taught, it's something that can be easily passed down. So if your manufacturing employees retire or leave or something else, the next layer can be educated and progressed. So you're not losing the intellectual property, the true intellectual property of your
mhm.
company.
The options, there's a lot of options. I've got one client 6, 7 years ago. They went out and bought a ton of iPods. Remember those? Basically, a
Yep,
cell phone that you couldn't make phone calls with unless you had
correct.
Wi-Fi. And they handed it to a bunch of production managers, shop floor folks. And if they're changing a setting on a machine, they're going to that iPod and they're making an entry in a SharePoint list. Very basic SharePoint list. And it goes from there. You can do all of these things with stuff in Microsoft 365, or you need some custom apps. Dimitri's got a pool of Java programmers that certainly could help you out. I mean, the cost to do some kind of solution like this runs the gamut based on what you need. It could be very simple that you could just implement yourself. You might need a little assistance on how to work with SharePoint or Power Apps or something, or we need a full blown app on our phone. Some of these you can do yourself. Some of it you need a little bit of
Absolutely.
help. Some of it you need a lot of help. But if you look at the ROI and it's there and you need a lot of help, go get it. But the manufacturer I'm talking about that started doing this 6, 7 years ago, I think they're around 725 mil in revenue annually. Big operation, and it's bare bones and it's getting the job done. So yeah, get those people involved on the shop floor. They've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of value. Um, they're a valuable resource. Let's see. I think we got a couple other things to talk about that I had on my list, and then we can wrap up. Um, if your employees could see the trends inherent to the manufacturing process or the supply chain process, would that aid them in decision making to further add value to the business? Um, the short answer is yes, of
Absolutely.
course, right? But can you put a face on that?
I've got a customer right now who's making electronic parts for the space industry. And as we all know right now, supply chain issues being in what they are, computer chips being hard to come by, they constantly have to make decisions on what's most important to make. Do we have the products to make that? And can we get that out the door fast while waiting on a delivery of other computer chips to make some other product? So, with that, today, they're having to juggle what they have on the shelf in their raw materials for, in this case, motherboards, integrated circuits, power supplies, that sort of thing, or they're having to juggle what they've received from their vendors, what they've received as a, I'll have it to you in 30 days. I'm sorry, 30 days has passed. I'll have it to you in 90 days because I didn't get my product, so I can't make your product. And they're getting stuff from chip fabs. Sometimes it's pushed out as far as a year. And so they're juggling spreadsheet with email with uh, other resources that are online from a website because somebody's got all of their inventory in a website and it's updated there. And so
So,
they've got a
so
person.
I'm what I'm hearing is like this big chess game with all of these moving pieces, and the inputs aren't all similar. And I'm thinking there's probably some idiot savant out there that would absolutely love this problem, but most of us aren't those guys.
Right,
So
right.
so how do you deal with that?
So what we do is we connect to all of these different. We can set up an email alias that the vendors start to dump their emails into with the attachment that says, I'm slipping 30 days on these parts. And we can read that attachment, pull it off, understand who the email came from, put that into a database. We can understand what your warehouse management system is tracking based on what you've got on the
Let
shelf.
me press pause there because I don't think people realize that you can treat your email system sort of like a database where you can go mine it and get
Correct.
real information out of it that you can turn into actionable items that you can automate with. So you don't need somebody opening the email, reading it, and writing something in a spreadsheet. If there's some sense of commonality to that email format, then we can automatically go in there and grab it and work with that data behind the scenes and just present you with the numbers.
And the cost of things like that is very, very inexpensive. It's not something that requires custom effort or whatsoever because all of these systems have long been figured out and
Hmm.
long been mined for
Email's
their
been around a
value.
long time, folks.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, say so has HTML. So whether
Hmm.
you're web scraping, so the same thing a person looks at, we can look at with a robot created by us.
Hmm.
Again, long understood, long been evaluated. And so whether it's an
Let me
application to go
clarify the word robot for folks because you and I know that means software, but
correct,
I think a lot of people are thinking it's a Roomba or something. It's
right,
not a physical robot. We
right,
also use the word robot to describe programs that do some kind of automated process like read email and produce some results. So
right. We will not have a Roomba surfing your web pages for you. And you are correct. We will connect your web-based data repositories to whatever your email is or whatever other repositories, and we'll pull all that together. Again,
mhm.
pulling all that together to give you an understanding of how to deal with supply chain so that you can get the product where it needs to, when it needs to, and you can maybe then have a conversation if you need to slip a date, but now with true knowledge, not just apologies and I don't know when it'll get to you.
So folks can automate a lot of what they're trying to keep in their head, right?
Correct.
And something that was exciting for me years ago, and it's still kind of cool, is Power BI has this ability to hit a web page as a data source, and I'm like, really? Is that possible? Like, how cool is that? You know, go to
Yes.
the U.S. postal site, and you can get zip code numbers and treat that as a table in Power BI. So, I mean, folks, the tools are out there to do this kind of stuff. So, give it a try. Again, you bump your head, give us a call. We certainly walk you through some of this stuff, but you may be able to figure out a lot of these solutions on your own that deal with some low hanging fruit. All right, I think I got one more question to get into, and then we're going to wrap up. So, linking your manufacturing process to your e-commerce system, I mean, that sounds awesome, right? Somebody orders something and they get their email saying, hey, thanks for the order. And then
Mhm,
something automatically goes on behind the scenes. And I mean, the sky's the limit, but I don't know
mhm.
what's real. Like, it could go order material from your suppliers if needed automatically, and
Absolutely.
schedule your equipment, schedule your people automatically based on volumes and whatever. But I have not really explored this concept, so I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and any suggestions you have for folks that they could look at.
So we have several customers that are as small as two brothers selling watch bands on Amazon and Shopify. The watch bands are produced in China, Malaysia, Taiwan, and so they come in like 40 different colors and 16 different sizes. So tracking all this was a nightmare for them. And so we linked to directly their manufacturers in China so we can understand the raw product. We linked to Amazon and Shopify, and we are able to understand when Amazon says you have 6 more pieces on a fulfilled by Amazon shelf, and we know that those 6 pieces will go in the next week, so we better reorder because it's going to take 3 days to get that product in. So Amazon will read it in, and so it'll never be out of stock. So, and we go ahead and do the reorder automatically, or we throw up a text message to one of the brothers saying, please approve this reorder because it's expensive. And they go ahead and approve, and then the reorder happens, right, including to making the invoice for that manufacturer so that the entire process is seen as if a human being did it. So that's the most simple way of doing it. We can then move an ERP system into the middle of it. We have several other customers creating auto parts and other that will move, that have an ERP system which takes those raw products, schedules the work. We can link a manufacturing execution, warehouse management, third-party logistic over to the e-commerce site. And we have customers that are quite large where we've linked all of that together. So we know that the transport isn't available and that's going to be delayed. And so we can throw up a red flag and page somebody, give them a notification off of their cell phone saying, please choose a different provider or choose a different method of getting a product there. So it's no longer being trucked, it may be flown or whatever. But that decision then is very easily surfaced. So from the end that is making the product to Amazon, Shopify, eBay, Etsy, Rakuten, Alibaba, Aliyun, take your pick. We can link to that. We can deal with them and their approved warehouses, also Walmart and Salesforce. There's a lot of commerce clouds. We can link to that, understand it, and help your product be put in motion to be sold, including the pictures for it, including the website creation for it, and so forth, so that all the automation you possibly need without mistakes is there to make the sale at its earliest possible time.
So there you go, folks. Lots of opportunities to streamline that connection between your e-commerce and what's going on in manufacturing, shipping, whatever. So take a look at it. Maybe there's something that you see that you could do yourself, or if you got to enlist one of us to deal with it, that's fine too. But the opportunities are there. I've done some simple things with spreadsheets being converted to SharePoint, and we're talking saving 5 and 6 figures annually just by making those changes. So the opportunities are there if you take a look at it, if you understand a little bit about what the technology is that you have or what's available, and go from there. So if folks want to get a hold of you, Dmitry, how do they do that?
So my information's right down below.
Look at that.
Yep, right there, down below. So either the website, hulftinc.com, my email address, ddukhan@hulftinc.com, or my cell number, 313-580-7201.
Awesome. All right. And again, I'm Joe Wainz, TurtleWorks. And if you hit our website, we've got coming up soon, actually, we've got 3 questions you should ask to improve business efficiency. That'll be coming out available for you to sort of work through, sort of a worksheet to help you identify some of the stuff we've been talking about. So great to have you, Dmitry. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you. It has
And
been.
I hope that the folks out there find something useful that they can run with. So we'll see y'all. Bye now.
Looking forward to the conversation. Great catching
Yep.
up.